Hi guys, George here, and today I'm going to bring to you a video about terrain, especially terrain that we often overlook and we tend to discount its importance in terms of being a capable defender or a capable attacker, and sometimes we overlook the terrain in favor of smoke. And the thing that I don't like about smoke, there's two things. One, there's a randomness to it because unless you're dealing with assault engineers with a high smoke exponent, you're relying on luck to attain it. And secondly, it impedes your movement as well. It impedes your movement in terms of placing it and also moving through it if you need to move through it. So with that said, on with the slideshow, and at any point I see that my image is getting out of the way, I will turn it off. All right. So a couple of elements that I want to cover. Like I said before, terrain can impede or enhance your defense or attack. Knowing your terrain is important, and quite often than not, when you see vehicles going across the terrain like ferries with wings, you know something might be wrong. And in terms of miscalculating the movement factors or movement points. So knowing how much that terrain will impede your movement or your opponent's movement in terms of the attack is also important in situating where your strong point should be. There's also the concept of inherent terrain versus non-inherent terrain. For example, in inherent terrain, orchards. Orchards cover the whole hex, so does smoke. So it doesn't have to go through the hex, it just needs to touch one hex side and you get the hindrance. You need to know what is an obstacle versus a hindrance and how to readily identify concealment terrain. That I can cover right off the bat. Now, if you have the rad charts or the actual charts, and if you look at the terrain, you'll see certain terrain is marked in red, so that's concealment terrain. That's an easy way of identifying everything. And here you have a picture of Cretan, the Battle of Crete, and you have some German paratroops taking advantage of the terrain to advance into their victory location. So I'm not going to cover all the terrain types, but some key important terrain that's practically omnipresent, and we need to know certain certain aspects of it in order to be more effective attackers or more effective defenders. All right, and by no means am I going to be thorough. You will need to do additional reading and research after in Chapter B after I cover this. All right, so let's go on to slide number 3. Woods. Woods is probably omnipresent, and the first Woods board that was ever published was board number 5 with the advent of Crest of Iron here. That was one game that featured one board, and it has survived since then. If you're dealing with the Eastern Front partisans, board 5 is probably going to be in part of the gameplay. So woods is important. What you need to know about woods is that it is concealment terrain. There's a +1 TEM. With mortar fire, you have a -1 air burst, and beware because it's cumulative. So if your opponent is capable of putting an entrenchment in the woods, it'll be a +2 for the entrenchment, -1 for air burst. The net amount will be a +1. There's kindling. It can burn very readily with a flamethrower attack, and it costs 2 movement factors to move in. With movement points, vehicles, you have to be aware that there's a bug check. You can either move with half of your movement points or all your movement points, depending on which one you choose. There's a +3 to your bug check and whatnot. Now, the other key important element in woods is when you're moving a vehicle through a woods road hex, to change the vehicular covered arc costs 2 movement points as opposed to 1. Okay. The other important element with woods roads, for example, is the -1 air burst becomes into effect regardless of whether your opponent has used the road break or the woods hex. And that's in the rule book. Also, it was a discussion recently, I believe, on Discord. So here's JRV saying uh, it was a Q&A B 13.3 and C 6.8. B 13.3 says all indirect fire versus unarmored targets in a wood hex receives um, a minus 110. A squad uses bypass movement. In a wood hex, a mortar fires on the squad using area target type at one of the bypass vertices. FNAM, FFMO apply to the to hit, DR, and hit results. Does the minus 1 DRM for airburst and woods apply to the IFT DR? Yes. As currently written, the rule doesn't really need this Q&A. B13.3, all direct fire versus unarmored CE and open top, even if buttoned up targets in a wood hex receives a minus 110 instead due to the added lethality of airburst. A unit in bypass or a woods road is still in the woods hex and so would be subject to airbursts. Interesting. Thought I'd share that with you. Scratching the back of my head here. The next terrain type I want to cover a bit is orchards, and here you have a German paratrooper deceased in an orchard in Crete. Here's the olive grove. Now, olive groves are a different story, but anywho, I'm going to temporarily turn off my my image here because I'm overwriting something. Here we go. There you go. So it's concealment terrain with a plus 1 hindrance, blocks loss to a higher elevation. Actually, I believe it creates a blind hex. It's better than smoke because it provides you that hindrance, but you don't have to expend more than one movement factor to move into it. Plus, for vehicles, it's just one movement point, and it doesn't require a bug check. So beware of roadside orchards that are lined along the road, because then the 10 might not apply. The hindrance might not apply. And also, two variations of that terrain type is the cactus patch and the olive grove, which also provides a plus 110 and a hindrance. I am summarizing. Guys, read the rules, okay? All right, going on to another one. Oh, yeah, do not forget that they're in season only from April through October, okay? So, with that said, out of season orchards, if I remember the rules correctly, do provide a plus 1 hindrance to higher elevation, but don't necessarily block it. So that's also important to know is are they in season? A bit like grain. Now the last slide I want to show to you is height advantage. Now how often have you had a unit up on a hill break and you want to route? Can you route? Yes, you do, because a plus 1 height advantage eradicates interdiction. Now, beware of crest lines, continuous slope, and double crest. So double crest is here, right there. 15Q4, I believe, or O4. We'll take a look at the map. And continuous slope, it's necessary to have uh, uh, loss to a lower elevation directly below you, right? So higher elevation doubles the movement factors. It costs 4 plus cost of terrain unless you're moving to the higher elevation through a hill road, okay? And double crest blocks vehicles cavalry movement road uh, unless there is a road going up there. So let's go and look over a map here. I'm not too sure. May allow you to peek into minus 1 terrain. Yes, may allow you to peek into a gully depending on how far you are from the gully, and some basic loss. All right, so let's take a look at a map here. Now, here is your double crest, right? So a vehicle, in order to get there, would have to come through here or through there. Oh no, this is a double crest. That's a double crest. That's a double crest. And typically, a vehicle can only attain the high, going to higher terrain through the road. That's Charlie. Hold on. So I'm babysitting Charlie the canary here until October 5th. He tends to be a good bird most of the time. So going into the higher elevation, a vehicle would have to take the road in order to get up there. Knowing that, it's great having that knowledge. Here, uh, be aware that if you go and put a second level unit there and increase that level higher, there you go. Let's put a unit there just for the sake of creating an example. So if you're starting out, you might think that this 467 has lost to the 667. But if orchards are in season and this unit tries to look down on that unit, boom, your loss is blocked. So at the same token, if this unit was adjacent to this hedge, there's a plus 210. So this is how you can use certain terrain to your advantage in either attacking or defending. And these little bits and pieces of rules that I threw at you, you could take a greater look into them in Chapter B. Definitely look over orchards, higher elevation, and woods and wood roads, and enjoy the game, guys. Charlie's just about ready to go to sleep. It's about Sunday 7:30. Had a long day. I wake him up at 5:30 every day. So with that, I'll bid you farewell until I see you next week. Take care. See you later.